Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a story, a mystery, a tragedy that still resonates today, the Chappaquiddick incident.
Yeah, it's one of those historical events that just captures the imagination, isn't it?
It really does. It's 1969. Ted Kennedy. A fatal car accident.
And so many unanswered questions swirling around it, even now.
Exactly. But before we get into all of that, let's be clear. This is more than just a political scandal.
Right. At the heart of this story is a young woman, Jo Kopechne.
A woman whose life was tragically cut short. So as we unpack this, we want to keep her story front and center.
Absolutely. Her story deserves to be told, not overshadowed by the political storm.
Okay, so to start, can you just walk us through the basic facts? What exactly happened that July night on Chappaquiddick Island?
It was July 18th, 1969. Ted Kennedy was hosting a party.
A party?
Yeah, a gathering for a group of women who'd worked on his brother Robert Kennedy's campaign.
Okay, so these were all campaign staffers.
That's right. And one of them was Jo Kopechne.
And she was, what, 28 years old?
Yeah, 28. A bright future ahead of her. Later that evening, Kennedy and Kopechne left the party together in his car.
And this is where things start to get murky, at least from the sources we've got, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting information out there.
Okay, so what do we know for sure?
We know Kennedy claimed he was taking Kopechne back to her hotel, but he took a wrong turn.
A wrong turn.
He ended up driving down this dirt road towards a bridge called Dyke Bridge.
I see.
And he lost control of the car. It plunged off the bridge into the water, landed upside down.
Oh, my God.
Kennedy managed to escape, but Jo, tragically, she didn't.
That's awful.
Right.
It's just heartbreaking to think about being trapped underwater like that.
Absolutely. It's a horrible tragedy.
And then there's the delay in reporting, right?
Yeah, that's one of the most puzzling aspects of the whole thing.
What was it, like a 10-hour delay?
A full 10 hours before Kennedy contacted the police.
Wow. It's no wonder that this gap in the timeline just fueled all sorts of speculation.
Exactly. It created this perfect breeding ground for conspiracy theories.
So before we jump into those theories, let's talk a bit more about Jo. You mentioned she was a campaign worker. What else do we know about her?
She was more than just a staffer. She was a bright, dedicated young woman, really involved in Robert Kennedy's campaign.
And from what I read, by all accounts, she was well-respected, well-liked.
Exactly. Her friends described her as intelligent, compassionate, someone who really cared about social justice.
It's such a tragedy that her life was cut short.
Yeah.
And that her story is so often just reduced to this scandal.
Yeah. She deserves to be remembered for who she was, not just what happened that night.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the legal ramifications of the accident. What were the consequences for Ted Kennedy?
Well, he was charged with leaving the scene of an accident.
And that's what, a misdemeanor?
Right, a misdemeanor. And he ended up pleading guilty.
And what was the sentence?
A 2-month suspended jail sentence.
Wow. A suspended sentence. That seems incredibly light given the circumstances. I can only imagine how Jo's family must have felt about that.
A lot of people felt the same way. There was a sense of outrage. Like, did he get special treatment because of his family name?
Or because he was Kennedy.
Exactly. This whole incident, it really tapped into a growing distrust of powerful figures at the time.
Right, like the rules didn't apply to the elite.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after Vietnam, the civil rights movement, there was a lot of disillusionment in the air.
Exactly. People were questioning authority, and this just fueled that fire.
So how did this event impact Ted Kennedy's political career? I mean, he was Kennedy, a rising star.
Well, it definitely cast a long shadow.
You think it hurt his presidential aspirations?
Without a doubt. He stayed in the Senate, of course, but the presidency, that dream was pretty much over.
There was just too much baggage.
You could say that. He gave that televised speech trying to explain his actions.
But it didn't really convince anyone.
No, the damage was done.
Okay, now for the part everyone's been waiting for. Let's talk conspiracy theories.
Oh, boy. Yeah, where do we even begin?
What are some of the most common theories that emerged from this incident?
Well, some people believe there was another person in the car.
Really? Like, besides Kennedy and Kopechne?
Yeah. And then there were theories about the accident being staged.
Staged, like it wasn't an accident at all.
Right. And of course, you have the classic cover-up theories like the Kennedys used their power to bury the truth.
I mean, with the lack of a full investigation, the missing autopsy report, it's not hard to see how those theories took hold.
Exactly. All those unanswered questions, they just fueled the speculation.
It's almost like a real-life mystery novel, isn't it? Where you're just dying to know what really happened.
Yeah, it's a story that just grabs you and doesn't let go.
But for me, it's not just about the mystery. This whole incident It really speaks to a bigger issue, doesn't it? This deep-seated distrust of power and privilege.
Absolutely. Chappaquiddick became this lightning rod for public cynicism. It made people question whether the powerful were really held accountable for their actions.
It really makes you wonder how differently things would have played out in today's world, with social media, 24-hour news cycles, the constant flow of information.
Right. Could Kennedy have controlled the narrative the same way?
Exactly. Would the public have demanded more answers? Faster answers?
It's a fascinating thought experiment, isn't it? To see how this event would unfold in the age of instant information.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Chappaquiddick, I think it's clear we're left with more questions than answers. It's a story about accountability, privilege, the search for truth, but most importantly, it's a reminder to remember Mary Jo Kopechne.
Yes, to remember the woman at the heart of this tragedy. Her life, her story, deserves to be more than just a footnote in a political scandal.
And that's exactly what we've tried to do today. We've dug into the facts, explored the theories, and hopefully shed some light on a dark chapter in American history. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.